The flickering candlelight cast restless shadows across Amelia's face, illuminating the forced smile she wore like a mask. At 32, she was breathtakingly beautiful, yet utterly deceitful. My Amelia, or rather, the woman I once believed was mine. We sat in our cozy dining room, a space infused with years of shared memories. Memories I now realize were built on falsehoods. Tonight was her birthday, a celebration that should have been filled with warmth, but the air between us carried an unseen chill. It had been a good year for me professionally. A major promotion, endless late nights, sacrifice weekends. Ironically, all that effort had blinded me to the fractures forming in our foundation. I observed her closely as she peeled away the wrapping paper from my carefully chosen gift, a small velvet box. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation as she lifted the lid, revealing a delicate silver locket, engraved with an elegant A, intertwined with diamond-studded M. For Parker, my name. Every detail was intentional. I had painstakingly tracked down a near replica of the locket she had lost years ago, one that had belonged to her grandmother, a piece she had cherished. It was meant to symbolize our enduring love. Her fingers trembled as she held it, her expression shifting almost imperceptibly. Then, as she discovered the hidden clasp and pried it open, her breath hitched. Inside, instead of a picture of us, with a high-resolution photograph, an image that shattered everything. It was her and David, my best friend, their lips locked in a passionate embrace. The setting? A beach in Cairo. A trip she had claimed was a girl's getaway, one I had been too busy working to join. The locket slipped from her fingers, hitting the hardwood floor with a sharp clatter. The sound reverberated through the thick silence that followed. Just moments ago, her face had been flushed with delight. Now, all color drained from it, her wide eyes reflecting shock and sheer terror. She looked at me, her mouth opening, but the words faltered before escaping. "Parker, she stammered, barely a whisper. I said nothing. I simply stood there, letting the flickering candlelight stretch our distorted shadows across the walls, warped reflections of the twisted reality we lived in. My silence, I knew, was more terrifying than any outburst could ever be. It was the silence of something breaking. A heart, a trust, a carefully constructed life, now crumbling into dust. She scrambled to retrieve the locket, her fingers shaking as she clutched it desperately. It's not what it looks like. The words, so predictable, so pathetically rehearsed, hung between us like dead weight. I finally spoke, my voice measured and unyielding. "Really, Amelia? Because it looks an awful lot like betrayal." Tears welled in her eyes, crocodile tears, ones I had been blind to before, but now I saw them for what they truly were. "Please, Parker, let me explain." "Explain what?" I asked, my tone cold. "How you look me in the eyes every single day, swore you loved me, while sneaking around with my best friend behind my back." The dam broke. Sobs racked her body as she collapsed to her knees, still clutching the locket as if it could somehow undo the truth. But the truth, relentless like an unforgiving tide, had already swallowed her whole. I turned away, walked out, left her kneeling among the ruins of her own deception. I didn't need excuses. I had everything I needed, a single photograph. Proof of the lies I had unknowingly built my life around. The aftermath, the days that followed blurred together. I packed my things and moved into a sterile, one-bedroom apartment where silence wasn't suffocating. It was a relief. The next step was inevitable. I contacted a lawyer and initiated the divorce. No fights, no drawn-out battles. I just wanted it over. But there was still one last thing I had to do. David. I found him at his office, an extravagant, glass-fronted building. One that stood as a monument to his success. Success built, in part, on my trust, on our friendship. Ignoring the startled protest of his secretary, I pushed through his office door. He looked up from his desk, surprise flashing across his face before guilt settled in. "Parker," he began, standing abruptly, his hands twitching at his sides. "We need to talk," I said, my voice dangerously calm. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. "Look, Parker, I'm He hesitated, then forced out the word, sorry. But the apology dripped with insincerity. And I wasn't here for meaningless words. I surged forward, seizing David by the collar of his tailored shirt. Sorry, I spat, my voice sharp with fury. That doesn't even begin to cover it. You didn't just betray me. You shattered our friendship. You slept with my wife. My words thundered through the office, making him flinch. His face drained of color as fear replaced the fleeting guilt he had worn moments ago. He attempted to shove me away, but I held firm, my grip strengthened by years of buried resentment. I trusted you, David. I thought you were my brother. Parker, please, he stammered, his eyes darting around in desperation. Let's be reasonable. Let's talk about this. Reasonable? I scoffed, tightening my grasp. You think there's anything reasonable about what you did? You dismantled my life. And now I'm going to dismantle yours. Then, just as suddenly as I had grabbed him, I let go. The abrupt release sent him stumbling backward, his breath hitching. I didn't need to resort to violence. Physical pain would be fleeting. The destruction I had in store for him would last far longer. I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving him shaken. The fear in his eyes was my first. Small victory. Retribution unfolds. The following weeks became a whirlwind of legal battles. Amelia fought against a divorce, insisting I had misinterpreted the photograph. She even had the audacity to play the victim. But I was prepared. I had hired a private investigator, someone who had meticulously uncovered every sordid detail of their affair. The evidence was undeniable. When we stood before the judge, a sharp-eyed woman with no patience for deception, justice was swift. Everything, our home, the car, even the dog Amelia had always claimed as hers, was awarded to me. She was left with nothing but the weight of her own disgrace. But the most devastating blow came later. David's wife, Maria, a kind-hearted woman I had always respected, filed for divorce the moment she learned the truth. His carefully crafted reputation crumbled overnight. He lost his career, his standing in society, and the circle of friends who once admired him. He became a cautionary tale, a man stripped of everything he had built. Word of his downfall reached me through old acquaintances, but I felt no sympathy. He had sown his betrayal, and now he was forced to reap its consequences. As for Amelia, she disappeared, fled back to her hometown, a hollow version of the woman she once was. I never saw her again, healing and moving forward. The pain didn't vanish overnight. It lingered, a dull ache in the depths of my chest, a constant reminder of all I had lost. But with time, the wounds began to mend. I rebuilt. Brick by brick, I reconstructed my life. I threw myself into my career, reconnected with old friends, and formed new relationships founded on trust, on honesty. Years later, I found myself on my balcony, watching the sunset streak the sky with hues of amber and violet. The cool evening air carried the faint scent of jasmine, and I swirled a glass of wine in my hand, savoring the quiet peace I had fought so hard to reclaim. For the first time in a long time, I thought about Amelia and David, about the pain they had inflicted. But the anger was gone, replaced by something else, closure. They hadn't just broken my heart. They had unknowingly given me the chance to rebuild it, stronger, wiser, and unshakable. And that, I realized, was something they could never take away.